Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Darrell J. Hill-Ohioan-KR et al. BD dash 001 document. And this is basic documents. The point of this is to try to convey to the people who maybe have interest in learning about what I'm doing and what is the benefit to them, is learning about the basic documents about which I speak. And because you're abbreviated here, I will go through them. But also on this sheet, which I'll make available, is the information where you can find those things in the public record that I put in there. So the first document you have to know is the Torah of the God of the Hebrews. That's basically the King James Version Holy Bible. It's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the Holy Church of the Messiah, Yeshua. The Declaration of Independence is the law of which under which we live here in the United States of America. Is that law, the covenantors of the Declaration of Independence are the United States of America people and the Almighty God. And so the highest form is this is law. So we're a moral country, and that's how we became able to be free. Of course, we've never done it. So that's number one. So that's one of the basic documents. Number two is Concession 1213. Previous to or following after Torah, the Concession 1213, for the reasons written, is King John gave the concession of England and Ireland to God, his holy apostles, Peter and Paul, and to the Holy Church. And so that's written in the Gila County Recorder document number 2021-016195. And it's pages starting at page 150. So you can see that there. That's where you can find it. So even 24 hours a day without suffering to find it. And so they're all written that way for you to be able to comprehend where they might be. If not, then I'll update it later, or you can go look at it generally on the internet. But you'll have to find the original documents rather than commentary. Third document you got to know is Declaration of Independence, that follows right in that order. That's Declaration of Independence of 1776. And that is when the people of the United States of America decided to unite and be free. Next, after that, Articles of Confederation, which is the agreement, the unbreakable agreement that all of the states of the Articles of Confederation would remain as one unit. After the American Revolutionary War was over, then there was the peace treaty that was made with France being a debtor, being actually a surety for the monies used in the war. England, they were also at the same time trustees, but over here fighting against the people of the beneficiaries of the trust. And that's the Treaty of Paris, 1783 AD. Okay. After that, Constitution for the United States of America, and that's 1787. That sprouted the President for the United States of America of 1787. And so, this is a non-incorporated constitutional government. It's a Republican form of government, non-incorporated, operated by citizens. Okay. The next document that closely aligns with the Constitution for the United States of America was the Amendments 1 through 12 to the Constitution for the United States of America, and that's listed. And then the one that has been lost as of the statutory behaviors of 1933 is the original 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment to the original Constitution for the United States of America is real. It's not what it reads in the common one you'll pull up on Wikipedia. It reads about who is lawfully able to work in this country. And it's going to technically exclude bar attorneys and such persons, because they are culprits in many types of problems that were identified by the founding fathers. And after that, which is not often mentioned, but begins to state a condition necessary for our government. Is number 9. That's the Emancipation Proclamation. It was formulated somewhere around September of 1862, but then it became effective on January 1 of 1863. That's why it's listed that way. The next is number 10 is General Orders 100 of 1863. It's also known as the Lieber Code of 1863. It was written by a man named Lieber, and it's written into executive order by President Lincoln, because at this time the government had begun to falter. President Lincoln was getting, because of the American Civil War was occurring in the 1860s, so started around 1862, and the bankruptcy that commonly comes with war was beginning to influence the country. The protective measure was to put in place the Lieber Code, and then right after that they created what would be considered number 11, which was an incorporated Constitution of the United States of America for the President of the United States of America. And there's a slight difference. This one is an incorporated United States of America for the bankruptcy as a result of the American Civil War, and that ranged from 1862 to 1865. A lot of people lost their lives. So if you could add the requisite number of years to that, you'll find that it came out to an event that is 1933, but that's number 12 is what preceded that. Those people who were able created the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 with a 20-year moratorium, which is commonly not known, to do anything that would change the economy as we knew it, because, or as was known at the time, because the people at that time would notice any quick changes to their government. Okay, so that's the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. The other basic document after that would be 1933, the 20 years later. Number 13 it's actually called the Bank Conservation Act. It's March 31, 1933. But I commonly learned it as the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, and most people know what it means by that. So that's there to be objectified, I mean, for you to be able to find. After that, there's a foreign, after 1933, that's called the New Deal. So then all these different laws are being added to enable a type of administration that did not comply, especially with the original Constitution, because this was a New Deal, but it was a 70-year deal. Okay, the first is the what's called the Foreign Agent Registration Act of 1938. Okay, that meant that everybody who came into the country who was espousing to do anything other for somebody else as a world power had the responsibility to register themselves and report to appropriately, so that the nation would know that they were here into the business of whoever is their agents for. Okay, number 15. This is a tricky one. 1954. A while later, the foundation for the Federal Bar Association of 1954. This made it possible for foreign agents called bar attorneys to be here in the United States, and that is directly against the Constitution for the United States of America and the first 13 amendments. Okay, cannot be hidden any type of a way. Next, let's see if I can get this switched down for us. Yep, I did it. Okay, 16. 16 is FSIA. It is the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act. This is a writing that came out in 1976 that created a condition that if you were a foreign sovereign, say, and that's hard for us to understand, but there had been a lot of legislation and a lot of cases not mentioned here that had to do with who was an American, who was not American, were the states synonymous with DC, and those types of questions, and they were answered. And so the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act meant to say, if you were a foreign sovereign, then you had to write a letter and tell them what would be your political election. That whether you would be presumed to be whatever the country thought you were, or that you had to determine who you were going to be and write that out to the people who would need to know when it happened. So whenever they look into the, as we have it now, the real-time crime center database, they would see that you submitted a document compatible with the FSIA, the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act, that would allow you to be identified as a sovereign. Now, what's a sovereign? A sovereign is a person who is the heir of the land. And for that instance, I'm an Ohioan, so I'm born an Ohioan, okay? But I'm born a baby. And so a sovereign is a status of a mature person, but the sovereign status is something that when you become mature, you have to actually write them and tell them, here I am alive, but not only that, but when you deal with me as the sovereign I am. I'm not a ward, and I'm not a statutory construct, and I'm not wanting to be that. So don't try to make me that. And many times you'll find that it behooves them to do so because it's for unsavory reasons sometimes, and conveniences that don't help you. Okay, next is number 17. It's UCC-1963. It's also called the DC Code. It works with the DC Code of 1871, which is not listed here, but for which then there's a huge overlay over the entire country. So, and you live, in this case, I live in Arizona State, which is the words that represent the land. But then there's this overlay, which is called the State of Arizona, which is a corporation born out of the 1933 Emergency Banking Act. And that is up at, let me see here, that's up a little higher at number 13. When they made that, they had to change in all these laws, and these laws, which includes then the UCC 1963. But what you will find in the UCC 1963 is that UCC 1963 heavily agrees, it almost follows all the morality of the King James Version. And this thing came out of Rome. So they wrote a law for the compliance of the commercial system that had been put in place. There are many other cases, but these are the basic ones, the cases that indicate to all persons who would have interest exactly what happened and how that these various laws began to answer the ability to apply a commercial code to the people as they are considered commercial entities, because they gave you like a password called a birth certificate and numbers on there, and all that refers to. Then the Social Security Act came up, that's not listed here, and that's 1935. And so they were trying to find all these ways and to determine what is the appropriate way to deal with the people. And then you have this DC code, and the DC code applies to the confines of the 10-mile square District of Columbia. But because they had increased it in 1871 and so forth, and Lincoln had his hand in that, which is not the scope of these basic articles, but basic documents, but they increased it so that every state would have a corporate identity, and the states then would refer to you as a corporate identity and not the man. The presumption after 1933 was you were in fact expressly the corporate identity. So anything done to you would not be in representation of the man or woman that you're born. That's a little complicated, and it's kind of sad, you become to understand it. But you're not the password to your phone. You are the man. In that same way, the corporate identities of your care providers, in most avenues of life, use an all caps expression, which is not you. It's a password identical related description. The man is the man, and the name they use, which is called a subrogation, a term used to refer to you, is a corporate identity. And with a lot of other laws and codes and statutes, they created an entire system of circumventing the Republican form of government. And they turned it into basically a communist form. It's called democratic socialism. Okay, that's provable. Okay, and then the last one, number 18, was made in 1909, and the important one is called the crime code or the criminal code. It was the culmination of all the crimes by the prior administration that had been from 1863 to 1933. And so it was done in 1909. It's called the criminal code. Those are the real laws, and from where all the laws had been adjusted. From there, the UCC, which is the United States Code, which is not listed here, took and developed out of them, and from the crime code and 17, the UCC, and the crime code 18, it developed the United States Code, how to comply and the breadth of things that you could do in this New Deal. Now, but the thing you have to know is that back at 13, the BCA 1933, the EBA 1933 was a bank act. It's an emergency banking act, not because the people were bankrupt, but because the government was pushed into a bankruptcy. And there then was a run on the banks, and the government had undermined the people by printing lots and lots of money that did not have gold behind it. And that's what created this crisis and created a ability for them to take the country and turn it into what we have today, which is a fiat currency. So back in 1933 then, an ounce of gold was $20. And now it's $2,000, what is it, $2,100 today? Whatever it is. And that created a condition where then to get whatever $20 would buy in 1933, you've got to go to work and earn $2,000. And with that, making that much money, you have to pay a huge amount of that for taxes and hidden taxes and merchandise taxes. And as a result of that, your buying power is cut way, way down. And your effort to make $2,000 just to get a $20 gold piece is very high. So I hope this helps to allow people to realize these are the basic documents. They're not all the documents that they are. The references are there so you can dig them up. I suggest you just get every last one of them and put them in front of you in a notebook, and break it up amongst a bunch of people of your community and begin to look at it. Take a paragraph. Everybody take a paragraph, and then come back together and figure out how to make it fit with understanding. Get some of the elders in there. They can tell you, and they can also report the events that had happened during the time, so that you know what was going on. Okay? Shalom.